Hello friends, in this video we will talk about MLFlow. This is the tool for MLOps. MLOps is ML operations. If you have not heard this word, don't worry, we will explore what is the meaning of MLOps and we will look how we can use MLFlow and what are the different purposes. We will go through the documentation of MLFlow. So stay tuned, we will meet after a short intro. So let's start first at what is ML flow. You might have heard DevOps word. What it means, it is made of two words, dev and ops, development operations. So basically what the DevOps is, when you create a software, there are many people who are working on the development process. There can be developers, there will be product managers, there will be managers who will be managing these things, architects. All these will produce some code so that it will solve some particular problem. After that, it will go to testing. And then there are different people in the testing also, which will be testing the different components of that particular software. And thereafter, end users will use this product after it goes to customers. So this whole process in a bigger organization is very professionalized and done in a systematic way. So let's see what are the different things that we do. So during the development process, a team of developers will create the software with the help of architect and product manager. Once that is done, then code will be committed into the repository. And there are different branches where different developers are working and they will commit their code and ultimately they will be committed to main branch. Then some DevOps people who are working on making this code available to testing and for production runs a CI pipeline which is called continuous integration. This continuous integration means all the code which different developers are writing in their feature branches, they will be committed in the repo, and out of it a build is created which will go to testing team, and testing team will test these builds. If there are any bugs, they will file a bug so that developer can fix again, and if the things are working, they will mark it okay. When all the code is done, then it will be moved to for production where end user will use the software. Now in this process, this is called CD, means continuous delivery. This CI and CD pipelines are very important in a organization because they will help to keep moving things and resolve the dependencies on different people and teams in an effective way so that everyone has something to do and move forward. So this whole pipeline is called DevOps pipeline. But when MLOps started, so basically when models comes, there are few glitches which this particular pipeline may not solve. Like the models are having some data. Models are trained on some data. Now that data require its own pipeline called data pipeline, and this data pipeline has different phases where we will clean the data, we will pre-process the data and do some pre-processing like normalization and is the scaling, feature extraction and all. Once this data is pre-processed and created in a final data, and then this data is used for training the model. After this, there are number of epochs which runs and a model will be generated with some weights. Now this model is used for production. and even for testing and then production. So you see there are different pipelines which is coming up in this, especially the versioning of this data, and the models are also have a different versions, and these are continuous process which are running, and these models will spit out different versions and each are used for testing and all. And then at the end we have few copies of data which our end users are using through, and we are doing this A/B testing. So A/B testing is basically a testing for a software where in a company we don't know what to do whether we should use the first version or the second version, which are of better engaging with the customer. So when we see the user interaction, how they are interacting and how they are reporting through the analytics, we pick and finalize that particular model for moving forward. So you see there are different challenges in ML pipelines because these are not reproducible. Again, if let's say we have created some weights for a model, then it's very difficult. Even if we follow the same process, the same type of weights will come. So we have to keep track of everything so that we later on, if there is a requirement of backtracking, we can backtrack and move to some older versions because the new versions might have got some issues. Even after this, when model runs successfully in the end user scenarios, there is a after some there are chances like that after few months or days, weeks, or even years, the model drift, basically, which is called concept drifting. It means your model, which was trained on some data, was producing good results at one point of time, but after few months or years, the user behavior changes. So the data which was coming before got changed. Now this model itself predicting based on old data but old behavior of the people, whereas the behavior changed, so the model output is not changing, and this output is creating a conflict with the real world scenarios. So this is called concept drifting. So in such scenario we have to keep updating the data and for training purpose, and keep training the data model based on new data to avoid this concept drift. So because of all these challenges, ML poses a new sets of problems which DevOps pipelines may not be able to accomplish. So for this purpose, a new study started called MLOps to resolve the new challenges that we have discussed. And to solve these problems of ML ops, some few tools are generated, in which MLFlow is one such tool. It is open source and widely used in the community. So if you are targeting ML ops as your skill, you should work toward learning ML ops, because all other tools are based on more or less on same concepts. So let's go through the documentation of MLOps and see how it can be used and what are the different concepts it has. So this is MLflow.org, and it explains what is MLflow. It is versatile, expandable, open source for managing the workflows and artifacts. Here workflows that we have discussed in previously, from data collection, data pre-processing and cleaning, and then training the model. So all those workflows and artifacts include like data, models, trained models and their weights in the ML life cycle. And it has very good ML libraries which we can use for ML ops purpose, and definitely it can be extended with some plugins. So here we can see what are the ML flow and personas. So as a data governance officer or at the very high level in the management, you are interested in the whole workflow, whole pipeline. Whereas if you are a data engineer, then you will be working mainly on data preparation, so that you are cleaning the data. If let's say some entries are missing or there are a few duplicates, and making it normalized, all those, and some other pre-processing techniques, which is part of the data engineering, and pulling the data and putting it in some data sources, all that comes in data engineering side, where we can do data preparation, and this is part of the ML workflow. And then analysis of the data, feature extraction, and then training of the model, all these are part of the data scientist, where you create the models, you choose what different types of algorithm can be used for that particular scenario and use case, and what are the different features which are more important. So all that thing is done through MLflow. And then we do model validation, means if model is performing rightly or not, what is its F1 score. All that thing is done uh, through this MLflow, and these are the part of ML engineer. And then deployment, ultimately we have to use this model so that people in the real world can use that. And there are different deployment mechanism, like it can be used as a Docker image, or it can be hosted in simple Docker, or it can be on Kubernetes or serverless mechanism. There are many ways which we can deploy. So even some frameworks like TensorFlow and all, they provide tools like TensorFlow Serve, where we can deploy these models. Similarly, PyTorch also provides such tools. And then at the end, when model is deployed for end user consumption, then we monitor that model if it is producing the right results or not. If there is any issue, then it should be reported in the right time, in a timely manner, so that we can make appropriate changes, whether it is in data preparation or analysis, or even some features that we have to do redo, and training purpose. And definitely the concept drift that we have discussed, which is a long term drift. So we keep our tab on such metrics as well. So let's talk about what are the different components of MLflow. First is MLflow tracking. It is used for logging parameters, code versions, metrics, dependencies, model artifacts. So basically we have to track different parts of the model and its training process. So all those tracking can be done through this particular component of MLflow, and it is UI based, where you can see every model and its available versions, and its data on which it is trained, even some of the hyperparameter which are used in the model. All those things can be tracked. After that, there is a MLflow models, which is for packaging purpose and for deploying it, so that end users can use it. As I've discussed, like there can be different ways of serving these models through Docker, Spark, and some Databricks, Azure ML, AWS, and GCP. All those also provide different hosting platform for the models. And these, after this hosting, we can do inferencing, and which can be done by end users. Other components include MLflow model registry, project that we create, and MLflow recipe, where it provides some predefined templates for different types of common tasks which are used in ML lifecycle. And then projects, definitely it is for packaging the reusable code, and for running the different parameters to train the model, for visualization of the data, and perform any data science task. Registry is definitely like for model, where we can pull particular version of the model and search those models. and check what are the different learning rate and parameters, even what is the accuracy level. All those things we can check through registry. I have already discussed how we can use and what are the purpose of MLflow. So it is talking about tracking ML experiments, packaging and deploying models, working in a collaborative manner where different teams are working on different aspects of ML lifecycle. And as every software development is an iterative process where multiple iteration it took to reach the final version. So this ML flow used in the iterative development with some templates and reusable things. Now let's see how we can install ML flow and instrument it and start seeing the results in quick time. So in this documentation we can see how we can install the ML flow, how we can add tracking and run different versions and experiment with these models, and then load the model and store the model, and these are optional, like if you want to do it through using the data break to store our results or any tracking server. This is the same life cycle that we have discussed before as well. So we have some data, we prepare that data, and then we use that data for training purpose, and then we put the data, put that particular data so that for future use cases, and train that data and model and data, and then we use for reviewing where um, yeah, basically the testing phase, and then it will be put into the model registry so that it can be deployed by for the end users. We can install this MLflow using pip install MLflow, and then for usage we can have use this code snippet. Here we are importing MLflow and importing our necessary libraries from sklearn, and then we start. This is for logging purpose, and then we load the data, we split the data in test and train, and then we use a random forest regressor ML algorithm from sklearn, and we talk about, okay, you fit this model based on x train and x y train data which we have split it here, and then after this training is done, then we do some prediction, right? This is common code for machine learning model, but here we are, what we are doing, we are marking MLflow auto log, which will log the different aspects of the model. When this model runs, so we can have the UI as well, we can run through this, which will run on the local host 5000 in your local browser, and you can see the different things in a graphical format. It shows how the model is behaving while it is training with different data sets. So it gives a lot of information about the training process. So let's go to the tutorial examples which you can follow along. You can understand and follow this tutorial on its website of mlflow.org docs. It will talk about how we can use this product and tool for our ML lifecycle of the project. So here on this tutorial and examples page in the documentation, you can see different examples for training and serving that model. Here they are using the linear regression model for basic examples, and hyperparameter tuning, multi-step workflows, so where we have different types of workflows, and using the ML flow for the REST API so that we can use in our client applications, and running in a Docker environment, right, or Python package for anti-tampering, and then packaging training code in a Conda environment. So there are different environments. It shows the different examples basically, and it has different types of languages and libraries like PyTorch, Prophet, Keras, right? So how we can instrument ML flow, so in these libraries code, where we can use ML flow for its for its basic life cycle management. So I hope you got the concept of ML flow, and like let's go through what we have discussed. We have discussed what is ML flow, and before that we have discussed DevOps, simple pipeline of a DevOps, and then we discussed about ML pipeline and how it is different from normal DevOps pipeline, and how this ML flow is useful in solving the MLOps problems. And then we have seen the documentation of ML flow, where we have gone through what are the different components of it, and how we can use it, and we have seen few tutorials and documentation so that we can start using it in our project. So I hope you got the idea very well, and if you like this video, please share with your friends and click on the like button so that such videos will be promoted to other similar students who wants to learn ML flow and ML ops. Please subscribe to this channel. That will make YouTube know, okay, this such content is useful for the students. With this note, this is BK from Manika signing off.